Today I'm smelling glue. Not the kind you might be thinking of, but I'm smelling super glue, I think, and tight bond. It's down in these slots from previous fret jobs. Maybe this guitar was fretted twice before with two different glues, or else both glues were used on the fret job. All I know is the frets came out really hard, and I want to get all that glue out of these slots. I want them clean so the frets will stay in. There's a lot of sort of grease and sludgy, grimy stuff down in these slots also, and that has to be removed before I can do a good fret job. I've already cleaned two frets in the middle here, and you can see how clean they are and how dirty they are on each side. I can see right down to the maple at the bottom of those slots. That's how shallow they are. The frets were put in sideways, if you know about the sideways fretting method. The operator shoved them through the slot with a sharpened end, so the tang and its barbs were below the surface of the wood. You actually had a slot that's kind of shaped like a cross. But when a refretter comes along years later with nippers and pulls the frets upward, every place there's a barb, there's a little chip in the wood because otherwise it couldn't get out. And then I figured out why the frets were coming out so tough, because with that cross, the glue's going in the side slot too, and there's so much glue holding these up, it took a long time to get each one out. So I'm cleaning that glue out real well this time, so my fret job will go perfectly. Make sure your tools are sharp. You want it to scrape, not just drag along like a piece of steel. That's a coarse diamond stone, and that's how I sharpen these little knives on the flat sides. I've also sharpened this with my Dremel tool. On the inside, I rolled it out and I came down the back side. That scraper wants to be sharp so it doesn't just drag a dull blade of steel through these slots. You want to work towards the center. I'll never come off an end. I might scrape out close to it, but if a chunk of glue lets loose at the last second and you pop off the end, then you'll drop down and scar the neck. This finds stubborn glue right there. I can come across and it doesn't want to budge. That makes me nervous because if you force it, it'll pop out of there and scratch the board. So I come on there with my refret saw. Its teeth are grabbing the glue and pulling it out. Sometimes I tilt it and just use the back edge of the blade like a scraper. In the old days, I would just stand here for hours and scrape and clean if I had to. Today I've got this de-glue goo, which is new to me in the last couple years. It dissolves water-based glues and it's cool stuff. I've got it in a syringe. So I can put it down in those slots and leave it sit for a little while I go clean a couple more slots up at the top. Come back and see if it doesn't loosen up that glue for me. It doesn't hurt finishes, so it's pretty safe to do this. And you might be surprised what this will pull out of there, and it cuts right to the chase. De-glue goo. It's a hard one to say. There's a lot of glue here. This is a tough one. This is the kind I could slip on. I don't want to. For that, I'd use the lamp. I'd get a little heat in there. It doesn't have to be red hot, but hot. All fret jobs aren't like this. This is a lot of glue, and it's in that crisscross slot. I'm going to check, see how my de-glue stuff's working for me down here. It's working great. This guitar once belonged to a hero of mine. I never would have thought I'd be actually shredding that guitar 40 years later or whatever. That's all out of one slot. It just keeps coming. It's pouring out of those sidewalls. I remember when I got my first alcohol lamp. I thought it looked cool and looked important. It made me look like an alchemist or something. Actually, the first alcohol lamp I ever got was with my older brother Michael, and we got the Gilbert chemistry set. That was back in the 50s. It had an alcohol lamp, but I wasn't allowed to use it. Michael was. When you know you're starting to get close and you've done a lot of removal, you start checking with your little depth gauge. That first line is about the size of the tang on this guitar. That fret is not ready. I want that first line to sink down below the surface for sure, or approach the next line. On most guitars, you go to the second line. These slots are pretty shallow. I want to see that first line go in there like this. This one's definitely ready. The line disappears. I haven't hit the maple, I'm happy with that. This one, no, it's got to be scraped. This one, nope. That's an important tool. Let's face it, I don't plan to get every bit of crud out of there just as good as I can get it. In all honesty, this would be at least probably a 4-hour job. I'm not even keeping track. We're shooting a video, of course, and that slows you down, but really, you'd have to be committed to do this, and it's not all about money. I'm going to remove the tape and finish up. I'm going to use my mirror and final scrape and deepen every slot, watching from the outside so I don't go into the maple. Slides right through like a drawer. This is a piece of paper towel wedged down into the fret slot with a 12 thousandths feeler gauge. I measured that at 18 thousandths, and then I put a little bit of denatured alcohol on it and get it wet and mush it around a bit. Woo! It's really getting the juice out of there, man. I think we're done. If you look down the slots, I'm seeing a lot of maple. It's real clean. This is ready to fret, and these slots are going to hold frets like crazy.